That's something you guys would want?
Yes!
Welcome to WatchMojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the episodes that hurt the reputation of great TV shows, and in some cases, represent the point at which a series began to decline. Major spoilers will be discussed, so consider this your warning.
You stay here, Rick. You watch.
Number 30, A Journey to the Highlands, Downton Abbey. The Crawleys take a trip to Scotland and visit Donegal Estate. During the family trip, Mary goes into labor and returns to the Abbey to give birth to the young George Matthew Crawley.
Can this hot and dusty traveller come in?
Say hello to your son and heir.
Matthew comes to visit Mary and meet his newborn son. It's a moment of joy for both parents as George will be the heir to the family estate. However, the moment of happiness is fleeting as shortly after Matthew leaves the hospital, he's involved in a car wreck and is killed.
We don't always get our just desserts.
His sudden death was strongly disliked by many fans as it quickly followed the death of Lady Sybil Branson. Number 29. Everyone knows it's Bendy, Foster's home for imaginary friends. Bendy arrives in the Foster's home and immediately he causes trouble. The problem for Blue and the gang is that Mr. Harriman and Frankie take Bendy's side every single time.
You guys, how could you?
But he totally did it!
Oh, blaming this poor innocent, just after he was falsely accused by his own family and abandoned forthwith. Oh, for shame.
Bendy is mean for no reason. He's shown countless times getting the other imaginary friends into trouble, even though they've done nothing to him. It also doesn't help that he's whiny and manipulative, as any time he's called out for his actions, he feigns innocence.
Me? But I would never, I mean, oh gosh, oh no, why does this keep happening to me?
It's a shtick that becomes tired really fast, and we're left with a one-note character that adds nothing interesting to the show. Number 28, Pilot, Parks and Recreation. For many, the first season of this popular sitcom is a no-go. Things don't get off to a great start with the series' first episode.
You know, I like to tell people, get on board and buckle up because my ride's gonna be a big one. And if you get motion sickness, put your head between your knees because Leslie Knope's stopping for no one.
In it, we're introduced to Leslie Knope and Company along with the town of Pawnee, Indiana. When it initially aired, the show was criticized for being too similar to The Office, and the character of Knope too much like Michael Scott, while some found her to be unlikable.
Often we have to cover up the more gruesome parts with a poster.
That is horrifying.
Yes, it is.
Even with all that said, there was still potential to prosper, which turned out to be the case as by season 2, things started to come together. Number 27, The Timeless Children, Doctor Who. Plot twists, if done well, can lead to shock and awe as they can make us reevaluate everything we've learned about a character or situation.
Oh, Doctor, really? Haven't you worked this out yet? The child is you.
For many fans of Doctor Who, however, this reveal was completely forced and unnecessary. Instead of the Doctor being a Time Lord from the planet Gallifrey, the Doctor is an otherworldly being of unknown origin who had their memories erased.
You are the timeless child.
No, I'm not.
You always have been.
It can't be.
Some felt that this explanation ruined the mystery of the Doctor, while others felt that this retcon undermined the history of the show and the Doctor's character development. Number 26, Song Beneath the Song, Grey's Anatomy. Musical episodes can be tricky. When done right, you end up with Buffy's Once More with Feeling. When done wrong, you end up with this episode from Grey's Anatomy.
Would you lie with me?
Too many people, get out.
Many fans found the tonal shift to be jarring, as the show is primarily a medical drama and the idea of a musical just doesn't fit. Even co-star Patrick Dempsey thought the episode was a, quote, big mistake. Fans also took issue with the fact that the majority of the cast can't really sing.
Running on sunshine. Ain't
It did get praise for taking a chance and trying something new, but for many, this died on the operating table. Number 25, The Day Will Come When You Won't Be, The Walking Dead. Jeffrey Dean Morgan's portrayal of Negan was widely praised, but it wasn't enough to save this episode from the scorn of critics and fans alike.
Well, look at that. Dawn is breaking. It's a brand new day, Rick.
Things were already off to a rough start, as many people were unhappy with the Season 6 finale Last Day on Earth, as it had slow pacing and ended with an unsatisfactory cliffhanger. The violence found in the Season 7 premiere was viewed as brutal and gratuitous, with fans finding the way characters Abraham and Glenn were killed to be way over the top.
I'm a man of my word. First impressions are important. I need you to know me.
Number 24, Saturday Morning Fun Pit, Futurama. Anthology episodes have become a staple of this sci-fi comedy, but this collection of Saturday morning cartoon parodies fell flat for many.
It's time to fall into the Futurama and Friends Saturday Morning Fun Pit! Here comes Bendy Boo and the Mystery Crew!
The majority of jokes just didn't land, while others felt the parodies themselves were worn out and tired. Other shows have spoofed Scooby-Doo and made the same jokes about reusing animation, shoehorned guest stars, the laugh track, and flimsy plot.
It all makes sense. He knew that if he scared the Globetrotters away from the big basketball game, disappointed fans would flock to his kabuki theater.
Of course!
Some also felt that this episode detracts from the humor derived from the characters and clever writing found in regular episodes. Number 23, Fartbook, Letterkenny. Known for its rapid-paced delivery and wordplay, this Canadian comedy has endeared itself to many. Unfortunately for fans of this series, all of that goes out the window with this episode centered around farts.
So any other insights for us?
It should be painfully obvious from the title, but the Hicks come up with a social media network based on one's flatulence. The whole thing becomes a never-ending fart joke that most just can't get into.
When we see you've been liking all this Duster's farts on Fartbook, and none of this beauty's farts, and not one of this grain-fed, USDA-certified, 100% non-animal tested, organic beauty.
While there are some funny moments as it parodies The Social Network, you're not missing much if you decide to skip this one. Number 22, Frank's Brother, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. The best part about this episode is Lance Reddick's performance, but unfortunately for It's Always Sunny fans, it's not enough to save it from the hate it gets.
I guess that don't leave me with no choice but to be a mature-ass adult about this shit.
The episode takes place in the past and recounts how Frank opens a nightclub along with his older brother, and they compete for the love of the same woman. While there are a good number of gags present throughout, fans have taken exception to the fact that it doesn't involve the gang all that much, and doesn't follow the setup of a conventional episode for the series.
Why?
You were gone! I was here!
Number 21, Rick Dependence Spray, Rick and Morty. If there's a fine line between good and bad taste, for fans and critics of Rick and Morty, this episode is right up against it, if not outright crossing it.
Morty, you nasty, lying little world-ending pervert.
I'm sorry.
What was it like?
Fantastic.
We're off to a gross start as Morty's genetic material unknowingly is transformed into giant monstrosities by Rick. They begin to terrorize the planet, and a plan is hatched to lure the sperm into a trap using one of Summer's eggs. A sperm manages to enter the egg, thereby meaning Morty and Summer technically have a child together.
Sticky, it's all you, bud. Sticky!
This fact was too much for many watching, and people started to question the direction of the show. Number 20, Tea Leaves, Mad Men. This 5th season installment focuses heavily, no pun intended, on Betty Draper, and marked John Hamm's directorial debut. Unfortunately, having Don Draper himself at the helm cannot save this episode from a questionable leap into high melodrama.
I've put on a few pounds, and I haven't had much luck reducing on my own for some reason.
Betty's cancer diagnosis would end up paying emotional dividends in the final season, but the story's rushed pacing here robs it of its emotional heft.
Betty Draper, I almost didn't recognize you.
Joyce. Hello, how are you?
Even worse, January Jones' real-life pregnancy gives birth to Fat Betty, regarded by many as one of the show's worst character arcs. Although the B-plot involving Dawn trying to recruit the Rolling Stones for a Heinz commercial is a highlight, it's not enough to save this from being one of Mad Men's more disappointing outings.
You really think you're gonna get the Rolling Stones to do a TV ad?
They did one for cereal in England.
Number 19, the one in Barbados, Friends. The finale of Friends' 9th season. This two-parter is the point at which some critics and fans believe the show was starting to run out of ideas.
I had to pull some strings, but I was able to get everyone passes to the entire conference. That's right.
The episodes feature not just a love triangle between Phoebe and her suitors Mike and David, but also a love rectangle between Ross, Rachel, Joey, and Charlie. Although the former is arguably more interesting.
Oh my God, Mike!
It's David, actually.
The latter is a major focus of both episodes, culminating in Rachel and Joey starting a relationship, one that was destined to be brief due to the characters' limited chemistry. And yet, it has slightly more mileage than all the jokes about Monica's hair, albeit barely.
All right, I don't want to alarm anybody, but Monica's hair is twice as big as it was when we landed.
Number 18, Shades of Grey, Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Prognosis.
The infection is spreading. It will eventually reach the brain.
This beloved sci-fi series had a few weak outings over its 7 seasons, which makes this season 2 dud stand out even more. After contracting a deadly virus, Commander Riker is put in a machine that causes him to dream about past events aboard the Enterprise. This framing device was used primarily to cut costs, as the show had run out of money near the end of the season.
He's relaxed, experiencing feelings of warmth and friendship.
Even by clip show standards, this is a painful hour of television. Making matters worse, the series only had 2 seasons worth of episodes to mine for clips at the time. Thankfully, this was the first and last time The Next Generation attempted a flashback episode.
Recognize Picard, Jean-Luc, Captain. Recognize Riker, William T, Commander.
Number 17, Chapter 54, Jane the Virgin. Taken on its own terms, this mid-season finale is an excellent piece of television.
He's not breathing.
Call 911.
Driven by the shocking death of Michael Cordero, this is a tragic, heartfelt episode that forever changed the series. Unfortunately, it didn't necessarily change it for the better. While received positively at the time, Chapter 54 is pointed to by some as the episode that killed the series, or at least marked a decline in quality. The sudden 3-year time jump at the end of the episode was bad enough, as it glossed over the emotional fallout of Michael's death. But bringing Michael back from the dead the very next season retroactively made the twist pointless. Talk about a cop-out.
Surprise!
Number 16, Into That Good Night, Roseanne. Long before the Connor family's ill-fated revival in 2018, Roseanne fans witnessed a different kind of train wreck in the form of this late 90s series finale.
One at a time. You people are scary enough individually.
Oh, we just want to see the baby, Roseanne.
The 9th season of this once-beloved show was panned by critics and fans alike due to an unbelievable storyline that saw the Connors win the lottery.
They won the lottery!
And a shocking reveal in the 2-part finale. After a series of increasingly bizarre adventures, the finale undid it all by revealing that the Connors never were millionaires.
He's still the first thing I think about when I wake up, and the last thing I think about before I go to sleep. I miss him.
It was all a dream of Roseanne's, a fictional world to help cope with the sudden death of her husband. While a bold storytelling choice, loyal viewers weren't exactly happy that the show had wasted their time with a season of off-brand weirdness before being told none of it actually mattered.
As I wrote about my life, I relived it, and whatever I didn't like, I rearranged.
Number 15, The Farm, The Office. By its final season, this NBC comedy was largely running on fumes.
What are you doing here? You invited me. You threw the red dirt in my face.
Following Steve Carell's departure in season 7, an increased focus was put on the remaining cast members, but no one was quite able to fill Michael Scott's shoes.
You want to go in? No, I'll put you in there. Okay, I'll put you. Here we go.
Case in point, Dwight Schrute, who takes center stage here in an episode set on his beet farm. The Farm was originally intended to be a backdoor pilot for a proposed Dwight spin-off series. NBC ended up passing, and it's not hard to see why.
Let's run at Shirley's farm. I'm in. Boom.
No, I'm not moving back here. You crazy?
As great as Dwight is, his antics work best when contrasted against his coworkers. While there is fun to be had at Schrute Farms, it's hard to imagine anyone wanting to watch a whole series about Dwight and his oddball family.
We'll build our walls, aluminum. We'll fill our mouths with cinnamon now.
Number 14, A Million Little Fibers, South Park. Trey Parker and Matt Stone's foul-mouthed animated series has maintained a high level of quality for over 2 decades.
The new waiter is useless, and I think he's high.
How spicy would you like your chainsaws?
But around the 10th season, there was some cause for concern that the show had lost a step. This episode, which sees Cowley write a memoir and go on Oprah, is arguably South Park at its worst.
You have been through so much, and I think that people all over America could benefit.
God, there she goes again, babbling about people's lives and carrying on.
It's an absurd setup that leads to the shocking visual of Oprah's genitalia taking hostages at gunpoint. While it's pretty incredible this episode actually made it to air, the humor just doesn't work and isn't up to the show's high standard. Even the show's creators have admitted it's bad, with Stone saying he would, quote, erase that one if he could. On that, we can agree.
This whole thing was my fault. I learned that I shouldn't get high to come up with ideas.
Number 13, The Lost Sister, Stranger Things. Pacing is critical to a good story, and when a TV series suddenly grinds to a halt, audiences notice.
I'm looking for my sister.
Oh, Shirley Temple lost her sister. So sad.
Taken on its own terms, this 11-focused episode deserves some credit for taking a storytelling risk. Unfortunately, Elle's trip to Chicago to hang with a group of misfits doesn't lead to the kind of character growth you would expect. She returns to Hawkins, Indiana the very next episode, and the only thing that's really changed about her is her hairstyle. Although, to be fair, it's a really cool hairstyle.
Bitchin'.
Even worse, this episode takes us away from the action in Hawkins right as it's heating up for a final act showdown. All in all, it feels more like an intrusive diversion than an important moment of character growth.
The bad men were trying to take your way again, and that made you angry. Good. So find that anger.
Number 12, Last Days of Summer, Friday Night Lights. Following up a critically acclaimed first season can be tough for any show, and Friday Night Lights certainly fumbled the ball with its second season premiere, Last Days of Summer.
Honey? I think my water just broke.
While it does a nice job showing the fallout from the events of the previous season, things go wrong for a lot of characters, particularly Tyra and Landry, whose altercation with Tyra's stalker leads to the stalker's body going in the river.
Tyra, we can't. We can't. What else are we gonna do?
This in particular set off a season-long investigation arc, which feels inconsistent with what the show had been, and what it would go on to become.
I'm glad he's dead.
Number 11, The Great Divide, Avatar, The Last Airbender. Avatar saw mercifully few duds over its 3-year run, but this one stands out as the worst of the bunch.
These people are fleeing the Fire Nation, aren't they? Gotta make sure we can't be followed.
The plot sees Aang and company decide to help 2 bickering rival clans migrate through a canyon. Most of the runtime is devoted to arguments, both among the feuding groups and within the group of heroes. In the end, Aang resolves the clan's differences by lying to them, a decision that really doesn't match his character, and acts as a really weird message to end on.
That's some luck you knew Jin Wei and Wei Jin.
You could call it luck, or you could call it lying.
Overall, The Great Divide adds little to the plot or the characters, making it an easy one to skip.
I suppose it's time we forget the past.
And look to the future.
Number 10, The Puerto Rican Day, Seinfeld. This show about nothing was one of the most influential TV series of the 90s, and many were shocked when creators Jerry Seinfeld and Larry David decided to end it after 9 seasons.
I'm into this Puerto Rican day. The sights, the sounds, the hot, spicy flavor of it all. It's caliente!
While the series finale is still regarded by some as a major disappointment, an earlier episode in the season proved just as controversial. Many Puerto Ricans were offended by the episode's subject matter, which generally cast Puerto Ricans in a negative light, and Kramer's accidental burning of their flag didn't help matters.
There's a guy burning the Puerto Rican flag! Who is burning the flag?
NBC was flooded with angry letters, prompting the network to issue a formal apology. Even setting aside the controversy, the episode isn't very memorable, and makes a strong case for Seinfeld calling it quits when it did.
Maybe we should stump you, like you stumped the flag. What do you think of that?
Number 9, Black Market, Battlestar Galactica. This reimagined space opera series incorporated a lot of different genres, but this episode featured one that it did not pull off well: noir.
What are you doing here?
I was about to ask you the same thing.
The episode sees Lee Apollo Adama investigating a black market that has somehow sprung up in a fleet with a population smaller than an average city. Besides the glut of plot holes and narrative conveniences, trying to turn Galactica's resident heroic pilot into a gritty detective for an episode just didn't fly.
Our people will do whatever it takes to get this under control. And it's good to have you back, Madam President.
Noir in space can work, but it doesn't work here. Even series creator Ronald D. Moore has called Black Market a disappointment, but at least he could admit when they fracked up.
There's lines you can't cross, and you've crossed them.
Number 8. Freefall ER.
She made me use the other thing.
It's from Germany.
Any show on the air for 15 years is bound to have at least one bad episode, and Freefall is one of ER's worst. The crux of the episode's awfulness lies in the departure of Dr. Robert Romano. A generally unpleasant man,
Yeah, get your ass back inside, sit down and admit, and do not move until I come get you.
Romano did have other sides to him, and had even received something of a karmic punishment when he lost his arm to a helicopter blade. His death, however, is just cruel and unusual. How does it happen? Why, a helicopter crashes on top of him, of course. The writers had already made the character two-dimensional by the end of his run, but did they have to make his death just as cartoonish?
You want a coffee?
Not in the club.
I got an extra.
Thanks.
Number 7. Intro to Felt Surrogacy. Community. Season 4 was a rough one for Community all around, and this episode is arguably the low point of a year full of less than stellar outings.
Now, I don't know what happened, but we have to get to the bottom of this.
Intro to Felt Surrogacy shows the study group lost in the woods, during which they eat some berries that make them hallucinate that they're all puppets and swap secrets with each other.
Truth is, I've never voted except when I watch The Voice.
While Community is known for its stunt episodes and surreal moments, usually they're in service of the story or characters. But that's just not the case for this bizarre trip of an episode.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to startle anybody.
Number 6. Stranger in a Strange Land. Lost.
You're not from around here, are you?
Although it was a polarizing show overall, Lost definitely hit a slump during its 3rd season. Some point to Expose, an episode that killed off 2 fan-despised characters as the show's low point. But many are of the opinion that this episode is much worse.
There will be consequences, Jack.
The flashback focuses on how Jack got his tattoos, while the island storyline focuses on Kate and Sawyer's return to camp, and Jack and Juliet's tenuous position among the others. The episode also answers some questions, like what happened to the people the others kidnapped, while also raising some more.
So, I was hoping you may help me clear up a few of the inconsistencies.
Ultimately, Stranger feels like filler, which on a show this serialized can really kill the momentum. Number 5. Beer Bad. Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Ice water. Nothing on the rocks?
High schoolers and the shows that depict them have difficulty transitioning to college, and Buffy was no exception. The Beer Bad episode depicts our heroine drowning her sorrows in beer after being used for sex by a jerk of a guy.
Smelly head.
However, some magic juju in the beer turns her and her drinking pals into cave people. Although elements of the series' trademark wit and humor are present in the episode, they're a bit overshadowed by the ham-handed warning against drinking and casual sex, as well as the literal dumbing down of the protagonist.
Boys smell nice.
In short, Beer Bad, bad. Number 4. Remember the Monsters? Dexter. Showtime's serial killer drama had been in decline since Season 4's Trinity Killer arc, but nothing prepared viewers for this train wreck of a series finale. A truly awful hour of television, this episode retroactively undoes seasons worth of character growth in one fell swoop. Dexter's mercy killing of his sister Deb would have been bad enough on its own, as she deserved so much better. But it gets so much worse.
Hi, Harrison. I just wanted to tell you one last time that I love you.
After driving his boat into a hurricane, Dexter is presumed dead. In reality, he's alive and well, living out his days as a lumberjack. While there's surely someone out there who liked this ambiguous ending, it's clear the writers didn't have any better ideas for how to put the show out of its misery. Number 3, The Principal and the Pauper, The Simpsons.
7 o'clock Friday night, Mother. Time for our weekly silhouette.
In this episode, Principal Seymour Skinner is revealed to be an imposter who took the name of one of his comrades who never came home from Vietnam.
Up yours, children.
Revealing a long-established character as being someone else can work when done well, but the fact that the town decides to pretend they never learned this info by the episode's end not only rendered any impact it might have had moot, it also made fans and critics feel betrayed, and like the whole thing was pointless.
Everybody look! Armin Tamzarian's back! And he's gonna take over the school again!
Many staffers have called the episode a mistake, but its writer Ken Keeler has claimed it was meant to provoke and satirize fan outrage. Intent aside, the execution had everyone saying, "Dope!"
Well, from now on, you're gonna see a new Seymour Skinner.
Oh no, we won't!
Yes, Mother.
Number 2, Unbowed, Unbent, Unbroken, Game of Thrones. Everyone knows Game of Thrones lost its way in the final season, but it hit a low point earlier in the show's run with this controversial 5th season dud.
What do you want?
Lord Ramsay sent me to draw your bath, my lady. You want to be clean and fresh for your new husband, don't you?
By this stage, the series had nearly run out of source material and was diverging further away from George R.R. Martin's books.
Lying to your husband on his wedding night. That would be a bad way to start a marriage.
One of the more questionable changes happens here, as Sansa Stark is forced to marry the sadistic Ramsay Bolton and endure his cruelty. As far as hours of television go, both The Bells and The Iron Throne may be worse, but with Unbowed, Unbent, Unbroken, Game of Thrones stopped being prestige TV. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1, Last Forever, How I Met Your Mother.
Robin, it's been a major pleasure. Major pleasure.
Few series finales have insulted fans or come as close to ruining the show as a whole quite like this one. Last Forever features the unceremonious off-screen death of the mother Tracy, as well as the divorce of Barney and Robin, whose marriage had been the focus of the entire final season.
If it wasn't gonna happen with Robin, then it's just not gonna happen with anyone.
Both developments were necessary for the final nail in the coffin, getting future Ted together with future Robin, an outcome the creators reportedly decided on halfway through the show. For an episode whose message was that things change, its writers seemed blind to the fact that the show had moved on from Ted and Robin's relationship. For the better.
Let's look at the facts here. You made us sit down and listen to the story about how you met Mom, yet Mom is hardly in the story. No. This is a story about how you're totally in love with Aunt Robin.
What episode ruined your favorite TV show? Let us know in the comments.
Okay, we have a lot to talk about tonight.
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.